Back to the Adam Carolla Show.
I've saved a lot of money doing all this stuff. Some of it I've saved short-term. Some of it has been a long-term payback. But everything I've done for the environment has been good for my pocket. My wife finally busted me on this. She said, you don't really care about the environment. I said, what did you say? She said, you're just cheap.
And now actor and environmental activist Ed Begley Jr. on the Adam Carolla Show.
It's funny. Hi, Ed.
Hi, Adam.
I'll tell you how dumb I am. I was looking at this card, and it says, father was an Oscar-winning actor. And then I thought, I wonder who his father was. Marlon Brando? No. Wait a minute. Ed Begley Jr. So your dad is Ed Begley Senior, and he won an Oscar.
Sweet Bird of Youth. 1962 movie. Wonderful film.
Yeah, Tennessee Williams.
Yes, right? Exactly right.
A lead supporting?
Supporting. Paul Newman, Geraldine Page were in it, Rip Torn, all wonderful. My dad won the Oscar. He was in 12 Angry Men. He was in, so many wonderful movies. Unsinkable Molly Brown. He was in lots of films, a great actor. Died in 1970. I still miss him. He was terrific.
Does he have lots of great stories about old Hollywood?
Oh, yeah.
And lots of stories about how much real estate he could have bought and didn't? Because my family's from out here, too, and my grandma will be like, Sunset Boulevard used to be all bean fields and chicken ranches. And I'm like, why didn't you buy something, bitch?
I know. We lived right across the street from a lima bean patch in the valley. I mean, back in the 40s when my dad bought the home.
It's called Studio City now, and your dad could have bought it for $8 an acre, and you'd be the richest man on the planet right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody knew. So you're an old Valleyite.
I am. I grew up in a home. People say, how can you live in this little house in Studio City where I live now? It's 1,585 square foot. That's the size of the house I grew up in Van Nuys, on Valerio. So I've been in a house that size my whole life, so it's very comfortable to me. And there was a lot of agriculture in the valley in the 50s when I was growing up there. In the 40s, even more so when my dad bought the place. But there was, I saw it change over the years. And,
Yeah, the valley used to be not only big for agriculture, lots of orange fields and groves and things like that, but lots of hunting. The San Fernando Valley used to have a lot of hunting lodges and things like that.
They hunt antelope, I believe.
And they would go out, and, as a matter of fact, and I know we're digressing now, but I've always found it to be an interesting story. From the Little Rascals, who's the guy's Alfalfa, the guy's hair stuck up? Yeah. He, later on in life, beside being an alcoholic, was a hunting guide.
You're kidding.
Bad combination.
And I know.
Bad combo.
Wanna go hunting? Very bad, yeah.
I'll
load. Let's get loaded. You get the gun. Well, it did get him killed because he went out in the valley and he borrowed his friend's hunting dog to go out taking some tourists out or something hunting. Oops. The dog got lost. He put like a $10 reward up for finding the dog. The dog was found. He didn't want to pay the reward. He went for a knife and the guy shot him. That's how he died. In his 30s for like a $10 dog reward. Little Alfalfa. But that's the valley. What high school did you go to, Ed?
I went to Van Nuys High. I went to Notre Dame, Chaminade, and then I graduated Van Nuys. I went there summer school, and I had something the other schools didn't have. They were all boys' schools back then. They had women, and so I said, hey, I want to go to Van Nuys, Dad. I wore him down. He let me go to Van Nuys my final year.
Yeah, Notre Dame is now co-ed, but before, back in the day, it was an all-boys school. I went to North Hollywood High, so I'm an old Valley guy myself. But let's talk about the environment, Ed, because I do feel like you were considered, I'm going to try to be kind here, eccentric.
Don't be kind, Adam. Yeah.
You were the butt of a few jokes 10 years ago, 15 years ago with this stuff. And now it's coming around to guess who was right all along, Ed Begley Jr., right?
Well, I don't know about that. There were some things that I believed then that I still believe now, certainly. But, whenever people get on board, it's fine by me. There's no time for I told you so. People are really starting to get a connection between their actions and the pollution in a city like L.A. or Bakersfield or Houston, their actions and our dependence on Mideast oil, and people want to do something.
Can I ask you a few things? Because I'm a lay person, but I have ideas, and I used to be in the building field. I used to be a general contractor.
Wow.
And when you build there are nothing but codes. And there are things you've never dreamt of. I mean, there are codes that normal people couldn't wrap their brain around. Crazy, arcane things. And you say, I don't understand. Why do I need this or why? And that's the rule. All building is one big fat code.
Yes.
How come there's not a few more codes that would work for the environment? How come everything has to do with safety, everything has to do with structural safety, everything has to do with, earthquake safety, fire safety, but how come there's not more involving insulation? And there's some, but they could do a lot more. How come there's not more? Like, for instance, every new house should have a tankless water heater. Let's say that should just be a code. It costs $80 more than a conventional water heater. It takes up 1/4 of the space and pays for itself in 10 minutes. Why isn't that a code? Why isn't a code that there's some sort of solar component to every new home, or some way to collect rainwater? Why? There's tons of codes you're building anyway. People go, oh, well, do you realize the expense it would add? Well, do you know how much expense has already been added with all the codes that are involved with safety and everything else? This would be a pittance compared to that. Why not? Why isn't every new house and every new building built have compact fluorescents in it?
Right.
Why do these governments and these governors and these mayors make these proclamations? Hey, by 2010, we're going to have all city buildings swapped over to compact fluorescent. These things have been around for 15, 20 years. Yeah. What happened?
I know the codes are evolving slowly, but too slowly. My house is a perfect example. It's a 1936 house that I've been doing a retrofit on to make it more energy efficient. When I blew insulation in the walls years ago, there was shards of newspaper in the walls. You could still read it from 1936.
Yes.
And that's what they put in there to insulate. There was no code for insulation in 1936. There is now and has been for years, of course, but they didn't have these things.
Now you're doing blown cellulose.
Yeah, I blew in cellulose in the walls. I put double pane windows. I put in a recycled denim in the attic and did all this stuff, and it was great. But here's the great thing. For people who put and incorporate it in the cost, as you wisely suggest, if you put solar on the rooftop, for instance, right away, the first month you take possession of that home with solar, a modest amount of solar on a new house, you're into profit month one. On your electric bill, because you're amortizing that, whatever, $20,000, that after the state subsidies is down to $10,000, you amortize that over the 30-year loan, you're into profit with your first utility bill. And you could do it with gray water systems, you can do it with all the code should be double pane windows the way it is back east. Back east, it gets really cold. People come out here and, it's not cold like it was in Buffalo. Yeah, but it's hot. For God's sake, a thermos works both ways. They should have all those codes.
Well, plus, look, it gets down, especially in the San Fernando Valley, where Ed and I hail from. You can just see the statue in front of the North Hollywood Library of Amelia Earhart, Ed Begley Jr., and me.
Yeah,
it's hard to tell which is which.
A triad of great, arms around each other with one propeller in between us. But the point is look, it still gets down into the 30s, and you still have to turn the heat on.
Exactly.
So why not have double glazed windows?
It gets hot, and it does get cold in the valley.
All I'm screaming about is anyone who's ever gone and tried to do anything to their house and gone down to Van Nuys or gone down to Los Angeles and tried to pull a permit has had 1,000 rules and regulations tossed at them. What's 1,003?
Yeah.
How about you tack on a couple more for something that not only makes sense? I would gladly pay the extra $40 or $80 for the tankless water heater system, because I could at least get that money back versus all the other kooky, nutty stuff you're having me do that makes no sense to me, and I never get a return on my investment.
The U.S. Green Building Council is lobbying regularly cities like L.A., cities around the country with some success. They're getting these kinds of codes to meet just the...
We should be on the vanguard of this. We should be leading the world in this instead of hanging behind and dragging our feet.
Yeah. There is a Vanguard water heater. You're not going to believe it. It's actually more efficient than the tankless. It's called the A.O. Smith water heater, and it's 95% efficient. A good tankless is 85. Some that get close to 90. This is 95. I just put one in my house. It's amazing. They have technology now that'll blow you away, and that's what we should be adopting. If not the platinum lead standard or the gold, just silver should be the minimum lead standard.
I agree. And then we get into these things, and I don't think of myself as Republican or Democrat. I just think of myself as whatever makes sense. And somebody will say, hey, we should make it a rule that everybody has to switch over to compact fluorescence versus the old school light bulbs. And then the Republican AM radio guys get their panties all in a bunch and talk about, I'm not going to have some jackbooted thug come to my house and force me. They don't realize that the government tells you what to do anyway. It tells you how fast to drive. It tells you how much in taxes to pay. It takes a picture of your car if you go through the intersection a millisecond too late and sends you a ticket in the mail. Why not have them tell us to do something that makes sense, that saves us money? Yes, they mandate that when you drive around, you have a child seat. It's for the safety of your child. There's many codes, many mandates they have. Why not these? I think we're way behind on this, and it's sort of embarrassing, and Ed was right, and we all owe him an apology. Teresa, apologize to Ed Begley
I want to be
Jr.
the first to say I'm sorry if I ever judged you. Now it appears that you were the pioneer. Mm-hmm. And look at all these other Hollywood types following, these Leonardo DiCaprio.
I'm sorry! Remember when he was riding around on his beach cruiser in the 80s, and we were all laughing, and now everyone's pulling up at the Oscars and the Emmys in their Prius, thinking their poop doesn't stink. We need to take ourselves a break. Ed Begley Jr. is here. He has a book, Living Like Ed, a guide to the eco-friendly life. It's new. It's in bookstores now. We'll take a break. Ed, you hang out?
Oh, yeah.
You'll listen to me rail at the government a little more?
I'll rail with you. Let's rail together.
We'll take a break. We'll be back with Ed next.
This morning, a visit from Mr. Skin, the guy mentioned in the movie Knocked Up. He's going to run through the Anatomy Awards.
Yay!
Must be a list of naked people in movies.
Boobs.
Larry the Cable Guy is with us. T and the Ace Man are going to dish out some free relationship advice. We're going to scan Craigslist in Las Vegas and find out who the sells this shit.
Go to Craigslist and look under loser.
Teresa Strasser reports the news.
Oh, T, you bitch! You bitch!
Powered by MSN.com. Have you been to MSN today? Call 866-901-ADAM and stream the Adam Carolla Show at AdamCarolla.com. Just click on Listen Live.
I pay taxes, bitch!
And now, Adam Carolla.
Ed Begley Jr. here. Someone has a question about his home air conditioning system, but quickly, just because I hate the man that much, I will tell you, and we were talking to Ed about the government, how slow they are to move, and the building department and the codes. Let me let you in on something. The dishwasher was invented probably in the 40s or 50s. They've been in use for about 50 years in homes. They have to have a little breather air gap. It's that little weird chrome little snorkel thing you see up on people's countertops.
Sure.
The reason it has that air gap is so that the water from the dishwasher doesn't get, the sewage water doesn't get mixed in with the dishwasher water and sort of pollute your dishes. It's a safety device.
Right.
That was around for about 35 or 40 years, and then some European company figured out a way to do a loop and not grind a hole in your countertop and put a snorkel in your countertop.
Right.
It is an air gapless system.
Like a check valve of some sort.
Right. The higher